guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we are going to be reading 3 of the scariest Let's Not Meet stories I found on Reddit, and I've gotten permission to read. So I have permission from all of the authors to read these stories. So I'm going to start with the longest story because I'm already tongue-tied today and I'm having a hard time reading these, and this is going to be a challenge because I've already done this video once and the sound didn't work. I don't know why. We're doing it over again. Hopefully I can read a little more fluently and a little better this time around because this is now going to be my second time reading it. But let's just jump on into the video. So the first story is called My Encounter with the WouldBe Axe Murder in the Middle of the Woods. So to preface, I would like to state that the story is probably going to read like a plot of a campy 1980s horror movie, and it's going to be very long. However, this entire story is true. If not for being 5 miles from cell reception and the way the story ends, there would be a police report for verification. I will be changing names, locations, and some details in order to protect the privacy of the innocent. Me and a buddy of mine try to camp twice a month now that I have a vehicle that can be trusted to get to some of the more remote areas in our state. We planned a camping trip for the past weekend. We chose a fairly remote location we had been to the previous weekend. The previous weekend, we were the only people we'd seen within 1 mile of our camping spot. Friday night, we got there and set up. The story takes place Saturday. It's about 9 p.m. and the sun is long gone and the moon hasn't quite risen yet. It's pitch black out, other than what our fire lights up. Suddenly, we hear a man screaming. We listen intently, silently, sharing an anxious look. At first, we were hoping it was someone drunk and having a little bit too much fun. But it quickly became obvious it wasn't a fun party scream. It isn't even like he's hurt. It sounds full of despair, anger, and anguish. I'm going to take a moment to remind you that this is 9 p.m., pitch black, in the middle of nowhere, 5 miles from the nearest cell phone signal. We hadn't seen anyone in hours. The screaming continues for what feels like hours, but was probably about a solid 5 minutes. We had no idea what to make of it, and started feeling extremely paranoid. We gathered up anything remotely close to a weapon, and tried to come up with an explanation for the screaming, while keeping our eyes on the forest around us. After about 15 tense minutes of fear-induced paranoia, I nearly fell out of my seat as I watched a flashlight and lantern slowly enter our camp. I greeted the stranger with the basic, "How's it going?" before he was even lit up by the fire. He responded quickly, but flatly, by asking if we could do him a favor. "That depends on the favor," my buddy and I said at the same time, obviously tense, holding our weapons close to us. The stranger proceeded to ask if he could hang out for a second by the fire. Given that there was 2 of us and 1 of him, plus a myriad of weapons gathered, we decided to agree and let him hang out. After a short second of awkward silence, we asked him what the hell was going on. He proceeds to tell us that he was camping down the trail with his buddy, and this buddy had snapped and tried to kill him. "Wait, what?" I said before the thought had even finished processing in my mind. "Is that the screaming we heard earlier?" The man slowly nods, staring blankly into the fire, and begins his story. "We were just hanging out, man. He came up earlier today, and my buddy just freaked out. He started screaming and just wouldn't stop. Then he attacked me. He lunged at me, and I told him to just back off and chill, you know? Well, he kept coming after me, and it started getting pretty violent, and I'm pretty sure he was trying to kill me. So I grabbed my car keys and the lights, and I ran. I don't know what to do, man. He chased me when I ran, and I don't know what to do. We don't have firearms or anything, but he does have a hatchet." My buddy and I looked at each other for a second, completely astonished. Then, something horrible dawned on us. "Wait, he chased you? Like he's on his way here? Right now?" The man just slowly nodded in reply, and right on cue, like some terrible horror movie come to life, we heard screaming from maybe 30 or 40 feet from the camp, down the main trail. "I just want your fucking balance, Gary! I just want your balance! Gary! Gary! Where are you? Gary!" I've never in my life heard a man scream like this. I've never heard anything like it in my life. It was brutal, guttural scream that was shrill to the ears, yet deep in pitch. The sound of someone gone completely mad. And the way he said the stranger's name would switch erratically from long and sing-songy to short, guttural punches of sound. We killed our lights, became silent, and listened. By some miracle, the madman didn't notice our camp and continued walking down the trail, screaming the whole time. We ended up chatting with who we'll call Gary for hours, listening to the screaming getting further and further away. Come to find out, they had taken 4 to 5 grams of magic mushrooms each, and his buddy, who we'll call Ty, was a co-worker of his, was fine for 3.5 hours, then suddenly snapped. It seemed as though Ty thought he could kill Gary and steal his good trip. We hear the screams get further and further for over 2 hours. By this time it's 11 p.m., the moon is starting to come out, and it's below 30 degrees. Ty had no jacket or flashlight, according to Gary. My buddy and I are way too drunk to drive out of the camp to get cell service, as it was snowy and icy and required 2 to 3 miles of highway after getting off the trail. And Gary was still slightly feeling the effects of weed and mushrooms, so he couldn't drive either. We had to make the decision to let the guy wander, hope he sobered up and could find his way back. And he did. Oh, he did. Right into our camp. We hear yelling after about an hour of no screams, maybe 30 or 50 feet from the camp. Hey, help! Please, help me, I'm lost! And we can tell that the man's walking up out of the woods, right into our camp. We tell Gary to hide, just in case, and greet the man with me carrying my 12-gauge shotgun and my 40 cal pistol holstered, my buddy carrying his AK-47 style rifle and his 2mm Glock holstered. With our flashlights on our brightest setting, we shine in his face. He was about 6'2", 6'3", and approximately 300 pounds. We talked to him, decided he was calm enough to walk with, and walked him back to his camp. He seemed really remorseful, said he blacked out and didn't remember anything. He had a falling out with his buddy, so we escorted him back to the camp down the trail, returned and told Gary that Ty seemed fine, and anything else happened to just scream and come running. We would help. It ended up being a happy ending. We made friends with Gary and got his phone number to make sure that he got back into town safely, back to his wife and kid. And we're actually planning a camping trip with him again soon. But Ty, who wandered screaming like a deranged maniac into the forest, potentially wielding a hatchet, to murder your friend, to steal his good trip, or whatever it is your psychosis-filled mind was thinking, for the love of God, let's not meet again. That's so scary. That's terrifying. I don't know what I would do if I was camping in a remote area with no cell reception and I heard someone screaming in the woods. I would probably pack up and leave right then and there. I am a giant scaredy cat, and that is an absolute no-go for me. That's terrifying. I'm happy that there was happy ending, and I'm happy that you guys actually made friends with Gary and all of that, but I'm curious if Gary and Ty are still friends, because I don't think I would be able to be friends with somebody after they literally attempted to murder me in the forest while camping. Absolutely not. I would have such a hard time still being friends with that person. So if the author reads this, let me know if Gary and Ty are still friends, because I'm very curious. So the next story is titled, I Think I Was Almost Abducted. I'm going to start off this story by saying that at the time that this happened, I was a 19-year-old sophomore in college. I was living on campus in the apartment-style dorms, and my college wasn't exactly in the nicest part of the city. So I'd usually drive a little bit farther to go grocery shopping so I can be in a little bit more of a safer area. The night that this happened, I was going to cook dinner and realized I didn't have some of the spices I needed. Normally I would have just said forget it and make something else, but the meat had already been thawed for a few days and I needed to cook it. I debated just going to the Walmart that was 2 minutes away from my campus, but it was getting late and I didn't want to go there by myself in the dark. The Walmart is right next to a major highway, and being a girl by herself, I felt uncomfortable risking it. So instead, I went to the Walmart that was about 20 minutes away, a few towns over. I got to the other Walmart and bought my spices, along with a few other things, and checked out no problem. By the time I was done, it was now completely dark. I was back at the driver's side of my car and putting my few bags in my passenger seat when I noticed a woman, maybe in her 50s, looking at the back of my car. At the time, I drove a really old car, and if you knew your cars, you would be surprised that the thing was still running. I've had a few people in the past, older men usually, look at or come up and ask me about my car. I figured that this is what the lady was doing, and I kind of ignored it until out of the corner of my eye, I saw her come around my car and stop about 2 feet behind where I was standing. I was parked next to a parking lot median, so it's not like she was getting into the car next to me. "Excuse me," she said. I turned around saying, "Yes," kind of prepared to answer, "What year or model is your car?" "My church is giving out leftover boxes of food from our food drive to people in need. Could I give you one? We have them in the car over there." This immediately set off an alarm in my head. I mean, she had just seen me put my groceries in my car. Why would I need something else if I just went shopping? Also, the churches and food pantries around my college were usually cleaned out after they had their shopping days for the people who really relied on things like food drives. There was hardly, if ever, anything that was just left over. I had watched enough Criminal Minds and read enough Facebook posts to know that this felt like a human trafficking lure. I stuttered over my words, but at first trying to figure out what to say, and finally got out, "Oh, no thank you, I'm good. I'd like to see it go to someone who could really use it." I felt like that was an okay response, if she really was handing out boxes. "Are you sure? They're just right over here in my car," she said, taking a step and making the gap between us a little smaller. I was panicking. As she stepped closer, I tried to nonchalantly put my hand in my bag and look for the small pocket knife my dad had given me. My mind was racing, and I tried to find the knife, but I was also trying to keep my face looking calm and not suspicious. I repeated to her that I was good and she should give it to someone who could really use it. She finally seemed to let up, saying, "Okay, have a good night, God bless you," and all that. I told her to have a good night. Then as soon as her back was turned, I got into my car and locked the doors. As I pulled out of my parking spot, I noticed that the car she was walking to had 3 large men standing at the trunk of the car. They were barely illuminated by the parking lot lights, but I think it was an early 2000s white Nissan. As I tried to go down the parking lot aisle as fast as I could, I saw the men looking at the back of my car, just like the woman had. I then noticed where their eyes were shifted to. They weren't looking at my car. They were looking at my license plate. Just as I got to the end of the aisle, waiting to turn, I saw 2 of the men get into the front seat and the other man and the woman get in the back. Their car started and they started to pull out too. I was having a full-blown panic attack. Just a week before, my friend had posted something on Facebook about how 2 men followed her and her mom through a Walmart. Again, I had watched enough crime shows to know that this wasn't painting a pretty picture. I finally got my opportunity to turn, but the car was coming up pretty fast behind me. I made the quick decision to take a really odd way back to campus. I made a ton of turns and went through a lot of small streets instead of taking one of the 2 main roads. I don't think I ever saw the car again after I pulled out of the parking lot, but I was definitely not risking it. By the time I got back to my college, I had calmed down a little. I started to wonder, maybe I'm just overthinking this, believed there were actually good people in the world, and decided that if they were really giving out boxes of food, then hopefully it got to someone who actually needed it. That was until I was walking behind my car, headed towards my building. There was an SF, faintly written in white sidewalk chalk on the brown paint of my car. I was shocked and terrified, knowing that I definitely did not put that there. I said out loud, "Oh my fucking God," as I practically dropped my bags on the ground and rushed to wipe the chalk off with the sleeve of my jacket. My car had been tagged. After a few seconds of wiping, the chalk was gone. So I locked my car, grabbed my bags, and raced into my building. I got into my dorm and saw the dinner I was supposed to make, but I had completely lost my appetite. I put everything away and went into my bedroom, still reeling over what had happened in the last 45 minutes. I sent the whole story as a Snapchat video to some of my friends, who were just as shocked as I was. My one friend said that she thinks the SF stood for single female. It made sense, which made the whole experience that much scarier. I called my mom afterward and told her everything that had happened, and by the end of the call, she was sending me an Amazon package with pepper spray in it. I didn't go out after dark or by myself for about 2 weeks after this happened. I'd have a friend from campus or work go out with me, or I just wouldn't go. The whole situation was terrifying, but I think the strangest part about all of it was I was supposed to have been at the safer area. I drove all the way to that Walmart because I had a bad feeling about the one that was closer to me. I started going to the Walmart that was closer, and I've never had a negative experience at the closer one since. It's hard to believe that all the stuff I've seen on TV and the internet could have almost happened to me. So to the people in the Walmart parking lot in November 2020, let's never meet again. That's just so shitty. Like, I cannot believe that your car got tagged with SF, and it's terrifying, and I cannot believe that happened. I am so sorry that you had to deal with that, and that is terrifying. This is one of the reasons I literally always go to the store with either my boyfriend or my roommate, because fuck being a single female and having this bullshit happen. Like, that is terrifying. Not okay. Nothing about that is okay. That is such fucking bullshit. And the last story that I'm going to read is the man that tried to run me over. So this is going to be hard for 2 reasons. 1, I've never talked about this with anyone before. And 2, the thing that happened was the worst event of my entire life, so it's a bit complicated. All of this was very quick, and I still have no idea why this happened. Anyway, my name is Matthew, I'm 16 years old, and I live in Italy. My house is in a little village in the mountains near Mont Blanc, the biggest mountain in Europe. Useless to say that there isn't much activity around here during the day. A very small amount of cars passes by, and there usually is no people around. It's very calm and a cool place at the end of the day. The event took place last April. I had just gotten out of school after a 2-hour Latin test, and I was basically already sleeping at that point. I unlocked my bike, waved at my friends, and left taking the main road that led to the village I live in. As always, there were no cars, no people, nothing. I was tired, and while riding, I was thinking about the usual things a 15-year-old thinks about when coming back from school, like should I do homework or play video games kind of stuff. I was probably overthinking and kept going along the road without realizing I didn't take the right turn. I noticed my mistake after a few minutes and thought, well, never mind, I'll just take the long way, because at the end of the road, you could take a path that led to the village. I didn't know that yet, but that was probably the worst mistake I've ever made in my life. I kept going, and at that point, the road was going through a little forest. All the trees above me were stopping the already small amount of light that there was, so it was basically nighttime. I turned on the bike's flashlight and moved onto the side of the road. Everything was quiet until I heard the sound of a car coming towards me. I was a bit surprised because, as I've already said, there was basically no car activity in that area, especially at that time of day. I didn't panic. After all, it was just a car passing by. After a while, I saw the headlights approaching from the road. The car was still pretty far away, but it was going at a slow pace, like the driver was looking for something. Then the car started speeding up, and to my surprise, turned right to get in front of me. Confused, and not wanting to get hurt by the vehicle, I turned left to bring my bike onto the other side of the road. The car did the same thing and sped up even more. I had very little time to realize what was happening because the car was coming at full speed towards me and I was about to get hit. So I did the first thing that came to mind and jumped off the bike onto the right side of the road. I did that just in time because the car ran over the empty bike just a few seconds after I jumped. I sat on the asphalt, my knees and elbows burning from the fall, trying to realize what had just happened, when I saw the driver of the car get out of the vehicle that was now still on the side of the road, running towards me without saying a word. I got up as fast as I could, but the guy managed to grab my left arm. I screamed, turned around, and landed the strongest punch I could possibly take on the man's nose. The guy didn't flinch. He just let go of my arm, touched his now bleeding nose, and smiled at me before returning back to his car, starting the engine, and leaving. I was in complete shock. I grabbed what was left of my bike and ran home as fast as I could. I was so scared that I left my backpack in the middle of the road and had to go get it the next day. I never knew who this guy was or why he tried to run me over with his car. This is the biggest and only trauma I've ever experienced in my life, and I can tell you, I'll never take that road again. So to the guy that tried to run me over, let's not meet again. Why the fuck would somebody try to run over a 15-year-old kid? Like, what the fuck is wrong with people in this world? Like, these are the stories that make me never want to leave my house. This is a reason, besides the panorama that's happening in the world right now, is the main reason I hate leaving my house, because people are fucking garbage. They are crazy, they are psychotic, and I don't ever want to meet a single one of these people because fuck these stories. These stories were absolutely terrifying and true stories. They're like awful. I can't even imagine going through any of this. Like, it's just terrifying. I feel so bad for you. I feel terrible that you guys had to deal with this bullshit and have to experience this traumatic events that you guys have dealt with, because this is terrifying. These stories were so well written, and I just want to give a big thank you to everybody that agreed to let me reading them and react to them on my channel, because without you guys agreeing to letting me do this, I wouldn't be able to make a video today. So thank you so much. So to anybody that's watching this that wants to submit their real scary stories or their real paranormal stories or their let's not meet stories or no sleep stories, anything that you guys want to send my way that is spooky and scary and is just going to give me goosebumps, then feel free to either leave a comment down below or message me on Twitter or Instagram, and I will definitely read and react to your stories on my channel because I love doing these videos. All of the author's stories are going to be listed down below in my description box, so if you guys want to read any more of the stories that these authors have already on their Reddit, you can definitely go check them out, or if you just want to read these stories yourself with somebody that doesn't suck at reading, then I will list everything down below with all of the authors and all of the links. And I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below for more content like this, and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye!